So where do I begin? Um, okay, so firstly, my name is Nana. I was born 6 months premature with a narrow airway, live and breathe through a tracheostomy tube. And I think my journey literally began when I was born. Going through the sense system was difficult enough. As we all know, when it comes to young people being called disabled, when I was growing up in the 90s, everything was based around the medical model. So it's how can we fix Nana? How can we make sure he's better than what he was when he was born? Went through most of my life with people trying to fix me. Conversations being had about me and me not being able to, take part, or conversations being had with me there, and my opinions didn't really count for much because my voice wasn't really heard. I then went into employment, and that's where I actually realized I was different. I actually realized I was different when I was a kid, and someone pointed out, hey, you sound different, you talk different, you breathe different. So I was like, okay. So I was like every other kid, but that wasn't the case. That's when I established the tracheostomy tube. I didn't know what that was. And I think at the time, bless my parents, they didn't understand how to describe or tell me about my indifference. I knew I had lots of visits to Gay Woman Street, and I would get a lolly at the end of it, which was fun. But I still didn't resonate that, right, there's something wrong with me medically. So going into the world of work, I wanted to work like everybody else. And I think people kept on telling me, oh, you've got a trachea. You don't need to work. Get DLA. If you're all right, you don't need to work. Someone of your condition doesn't really work. And I never really understood why every 6 months when I went to my hospital appointments, my consultant would be like, so what do you do with yourself now at work? And their mouths would drop open. Like, I'm thinking, why are they shocked? Someone with a trachea doesn't work. I'm like, okay, I have got a trachea and I work. I don't want someone to give me a handout. My brain functions perfectly. Lucky for me, my brain didn't get starved of oxygen. So why can't I work? Why can't I go out there and make a difference like everybody else? I managed to get a job within the civil service, gave them 10 years of my life. And it was a situation where I was very naive when I joined them. I thought being a part of them, they would help me, give me what I need, and be an employer, but that wasn't the case. One of my employers actually didn't deem me as disabled. And I only found this out when I took them to a tribunal, because I wanted reasonable adjustments to be able to maneuver and do my role as perfect as everybody else. So that was my first time having to fight as an adult, because you can imagine, through my childhood up until the age of 18, my mum had done everything. So now that the shoe was on the other foot, everything kind of linked up in my head, thinking, oh, so that's why my mum used to drag me to tribunals, because people don't understand me. People don't understand that I'm different. People don't understand that I'm not saying I'm hopelessly broken, even though the term disability to me means you're disjointed, you're not fully functioning. But at the end of the day, this is the life that I'm living, and this is the life of continuing to educate people that I can achieve. My employment life was in plain sailing. So as I said, I went to tribunal just to get recognized to have enhancements. And then due to me doing that, a management took precedent on me and took to Twitter and called me Darth Vader because of the way I breathe, and obviously quite clearly my skin tone, because Darth Vader's black. So that was another thing that was a hiccup in the road. I was livid. It was difficult for me to digest, but the mere fact that someone within the crown had decided to do that was flabbergasting. So that was another lesson learned for me. It made me, grow thick skin, and it made me understand that, for the rest of my life, I will continue fighting. People will not accept me as an equal. People will not look at me as an individual who can achieve. However, I am in control of my story, and I am in control of how I want to be perceived. I then moved on to another department where a line manager, for whatever reason, she disliked me. And I'd been coping. I'd used all the techniques of a complaint system. I'd done a grievance, and all she could do was use my disability as a form and a way to put me back in a pigeon box or pigeonhole. And one day I just cracked and wrote a blog and described my experience in the working world. And as you may be aware, working for the Crown, you're sworn to secrecy. You cannot divulge whatever happens in the workplace. Well, I didn't know I was that important anyway. I got dismissed due to that because apparently I'd spoken to the press, which I thought, wow, so I'm that important to the Queen that working as a civil servant and speaking out, I get dismissed for it. Now, anybody else would have been dejected, would have thought my life is over. I've probably lost my 10 years worth of pension. I've probably, there's going to be a big fat hole in my pension payments at some point. And let me just get back, claim the benefits. But that wasn't me. I decided to speak about inclusion, speak about having a disability, looking at the figures of disabled people within employment. At the time, it was 46.3 compared to 80% of able-bodied people in the workplace. And I thought to myself, wow, look at the figure of amount of people who have disabilities, who can work, but society doesn't allow them to because employers don't seem to understand how to include them. I then started to do little Facebook Lives, which led on for me being on a BBC radio talk show, talking about employment rights, talking about employment inclusion, talking about just being a Black man with a disability and the struggles I've been through. It then led on to me being an ambassador for Scope, where I was going into schools and talking to young people about looking at disabled people as anybody else, giving them the due respect that they need, understanding that a disability is just a different way of a person's life. It's a different direction, but we all get to the same destination. It's like you being on the road, a fast car drives past you, only for you to catch up with the car at the traffic lights. It's a similar process. So that was a good experience for me to ascertain and achieve. I then got catapulted and nominated for National Diversity Awards, which I didn't win on the night. But the mere fact that I got to meet famous people, I thought, yay, that's my achievement. Meeting famous people that I watch on Coronation Street, EastEnders, that was wonderful. That was a good thing. Since then, I've written a couple of articles for The Independent talking about disability, talking about Black History Month, talking about statistically how disabled people can be supported and can thrive if there is support. And I've written about myself in terms of living with a tracheostomy, almost losing my voice permanently and using my voice to make change and to make waves in terms that as disabled people, we have a voice, we want to be heard, we want to be seen. And the only way to do that is to be present, to be seen, and to be heard. You really have to speak up to be heard. Thank you.